All right, rockers. Well, I am extremely stoked to have on the phone right now. He is a master of the fretboard. He's one of the fastest guitar players at walking the face of the earth, and it all sounds good. He's a founding member of a band that has his last name. It's Chris Impellitteri. Chris, how in the heck are you doing, man?
Dave, I'm doing very well, and thank you for having me on your show.
We are ecstatic that you are calling Denim and Leather. You are definitely one of the best axemen out there right now. I'm really excited about your brand new solo album, the Nature of the Beast. This is your 11th studio album with your own band, Impellitteri. Tell us about the making of this album.
Well, let me start here. This is really important because a lot of people have been kind of, I don't know if it's the Freudian slip about using the term solo album.
Okay.
The important thing to know about this band,
It's
it's
a band,
not
right?
a solo. Yeah, we've never been a solo artist. I mean, the band, like Van Halen,
Yeah.
right? It's a band. I mean, I'm only as important as those other guys.
True.
You
Very
know,
true.
there are times where I could be replaced. You know what I mean? Because Rob Rock is that great of a vocalist, or James Pulley on bass, or whoever is in part of the lineup. So, just important to let the fans know. It's a lot of people they get that confused. Is it Chris Impellitteri? And the answer is no, it's not. Because if you actually Google or YouTube Chris Impellitteri, the stuff you're going to find is me as a guitar player, as a typical nerd. I love playing guitar, but I'll do clinics for the companies I endorse and be very small settings.
Mhm.
If you YouTube that versus YouTube the band name Impellitteri, then you're going to see live footage of us in arenas and all that stuff. Completely different.
And you're right. I misspoke on that. It's kind of like Slash with Miles Kennedy. It's a band. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Obviously, look, it's true. I write all the music, but then I turn those song ideas over to the other guys,
Mhm.
and then they write their own parts.
Oh,
And then if
very
there's
cool.
changes to be made, we do it in a uniform group effort.
I like that. So you lay everything down, then everybody has an opportunity to have their own creativity and bring something to the table. Now, let me ask you on the making of this, and this is your 11th studio album, which is just awesome. Did you guys, are you old school where you put everybody in the studio and you hammer it out, or is it modern technology where, I'm sending you an MP3, you've got the home studio, and then maybe you come together? Let us.
Yeah, so we start always with the rough ideas. I live in a place called Westlake Village in California. It's basically Malibu.
Yep.
And me and the bass player, James, we live here. The drummer, John Deddy, who did the record with us, now he's really a hired guy, but he basically is out in San Diego.
Mhm.
And then our singer, Rob's in Florida, in the Orlando area. So, with James and I, we kind of get together and we do the writing, right? So the band gets together in LA. A lot of times we'll go into a rehearsal studio and really play everything, get a feel for it. So we really feel good as a band. Then Rob, a lot of times he'll come out, we'll rehearse together, just kind of like old school way. Now, in the initial stages when we're writing the record, yeah, of course, I'll send them ideas. Like I'll make a rough demo and I'll send an MP3 with each guy just so they can have a listen of the idea and say, hey, that's great, or oh, that sucks. So that's kind of how we use the technology component. But I would say the majority of the way we make these records is old school. Get together in a room, play, rehearse, make it feel good live. If then we've mastered that, we then basically go into the big recording studio, or we'll do it in the studio together as a band, and we just hit the record button and we start recording. So it's really comes off as what it is. It's really like live band playing versus just a bunch of guys making music on a computer. It is absolutely not that.
Cool. So you're staying to the true roots of what it's all about. And I like that you mentioned it's like a live album. So you're going in and you're pretty much doing this stuff on one take, maybe two.
Yeah, a lot of it is actually, there are times where, yes, we'll go back and we'll do fixes.
Yeah.
There are times like on a lot of the drum stuff, we may redo drums. So we'll have John on this record do a lot of the stuff by himself, right? So we've already isolated. We've got the guitars and the bass and the drums originally down, but we may say, oh man, drums could be better on this take or whatever, and have him redo it, right? But the most part, the way we record this stuff is very much in a live setting, so you're capturing that live feel. And then, to be honest, look, my guitars are really big. If you listen to them, you kind of get it. So the way I do it is I'll start with a live performance. Once it's mastered, that's usually on the left speaker. Then I go and double it. That's where it gets more mechanical. I'll go sit down and go, all right, now I need to create a stereo image. So then I'll go in the studio, sit down in the chair, literally, and you've got to mimic exactly what you did on the left speaker, but now on the right side. and that's kind of what we call the doubling. And then at times I may even triple it too, where I'll add yet another guitar up the center. So it's kind of how we get that real big power.
That's awesome.
But the foundation is live.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Very cool stuff. Now let me ask you, this album's going to drop in just a couple of weeks. I believe the drop date is October 12th is when it's going to be.
Yeah, for the United States and for Europe, correct. In Japan, it comes out October 3rd.
Oh, okay, cool. You guys going to tour on this? And I know that you're going to be overseas, and because they just love you over there. I love you here, and I'm in California, but are you going to be doing some shows maybe here in California?
I hope so. We've tried to tour the States, and we have a lot of people around the United States that constantly will email us or message us or whatever, begging us to play. And we know that. We know that there's a lot of, I guess, interest in the band. Mm-hmm. The real problem is creating that interest in the promoters. The promoters, they've got to make us offers. We can't, we have a pretty big production. So I'll give you an example. When we toured on the previous record, which is titled Venom, we did our typical thing, which we always do. We do Japan. A lot of times we'll play very large theaters or, small arenas. And then we went out and we did Europe, and we were doing Europe with like Iron Maiden. We were playing massive festivals,
Beautiful.
When you're playing those stages, you bring a big stage set. Mm-hmm. Well, we're not a band that can fit in a little club, and we don't want to play that environment anyways. Mm-hmm. So that's the challenge. The promoters are like, all right, well, if they're going to book us into a 2,000 or 3,000 seat venue, they're terrified we won't sell, which I understand, right? Because they don't want to put up the money and then lose. Yeah. So that's really been the challenge with the U.S. is how do we get here? How do we convince the promoters that there's demand for us?
That's crazy.
So we are trying. We are working on it.
Good. Well, I hope so. And I hope that our show, along with the other shows that are spinning this, help out with that, because this is good, man. I listened to this album twice already. Phenomenal. You're playing, you're kind of like a fine wine, man. It's like you're getting better with age. And that's just great. I love it.
Well, thanks. I think what you hear really is passion. It's not, look, we make the records. In Japan, we've been very, very fortunate and blessed where we've been rewarded very well financially. So we don't have to do this if we don't want to anymore. Wow. We do this because we love doing it. And the same goes when you're making a record. You never know. And be honest, between you and all the people listening to your show, I don't know if the new record is the best thing we've done, if it's great. I won't know for another 4 years because I've lived with this record for 2 years every single day. I've heard the songs over and over again. So at this point, I don't have a perspective. I have no idea if what we did is great or bad. It won't be until I'm in the midst of whatever the next record is, will I be able to look back and hear with fresh perspective and go, oh, wow. But having said that, we are getting a lot of really amazing reviews.
Good. And
people are saying kind of similar to what you just said. They're saying this is a great record. So, the playing part of it anyways, it's really what you hear is passion. Mm-hmm. If we get better, it's because we love doing what we do. So, of course, we're always going to push ourselves to do something better than the last time, I guess.
And I think that's in many aspects of people, whether you're playing sports, you always want to try to go out and do the best. You want to be better than what you were before. Let me ask you, you mentioned Japan and being very successful over there. You're almost kind of like a Marty Friedman over there in the sense. Why do they embrace it? Your opinion, why do they embrace it so much more over there than the people over here? I've never understood that.
Well, remember, this is only an opinion and it's a guess, right?
Exactly.
It's not, it's not theorem. I can't prove this, but, something happened in Japan to us. It was around, when we first did our first Black EP, which was 1986 or 87, literally coming out of high school. We had this killer thing. It was really big in like Europe with Kerrang! Magazine and all that stuff. And Japan picked up on it. And all of a sudden, it became like this mania over there. We weren't compared with like just the guitar bands. We were now compared with like Metallica and all these really iconic groups.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think of is there were two things for Japan's success. One was the fact that as a society, Japan are very well educated, right? And they're very disciplined. Well, if you think about the way I play guitar, whether you like me or hate me, doesn't matter. But when you get involved in this kind of guitar playing, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of education to learn music theory, understand classical composition, all of that stuff, the boring stuff. Most rock guys could care less, and I get it. But Japan, I think they caught on to that. So you had this metal, which was kind of like, when we first started, our first Black EP was really like, I don't know, it was like Iron Maiden, Priest, and Metallica on steroids, but with crazy technical guitar soloing. And then Rob singing like just insane, like Bruce Dickinson on steroids.
Yeah.
So I think it was part of that, the education part, the part that they respected what we were able to do with our instruments. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing, when Rob quit after we did the first Black EP, I had to do that record Stand in Line. You know, at that point, I didn't really think it was a true Impellitteri record, but because Graham Bonnet joined the band, at that time, Graham Bonnet was a legend in Japan because he had been in Rainbow with Richie Blackmore of Deep Purple. You know, he replaced Ronnie Dio in that band. Alcatraz, Michael Schenker Group. These were all huge things in Japan. And sometimes I almost think we got this gift. It was almost like success without doing anything. They said, oh, well, wait a minute. If Graham joined Impellitteri, then Impellitteri must be these worthy gods, right? Those are the only reasons I can think. And I don't know, you know, I mean, each year, I mean, we've sold millions of records now. It's insane. I look back and I go, how did we do this?
It's amazing.
You know,
and it's all
we're on the cover of the magazines. It's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. You get covers of magazines over there, and then it's hardly that they talk about you over here, and you're from here. It just blows me away.
Yeah, I know.
Let me ask you, you a California resident? I know you're in Westlake Village. I know that area, yeah. But are you what school did you go to?
Oh no, I grew up in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
So when I was a kid, yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, but I've been out here forever. I mean, I bought my first house in Westlake Village, I think in 2003. Uh-huh. You know, I own different houses now, but my primary residence is out here now.
Cool.
And, you know, I love this area. It's great. And a lot of musicians, like Nikki Sixx, I think he lives up the street close by. And,
nice.
You know, it's a great area.
Yeah, very much. And you're not near, you know, you're what, an hour and a half from Hollywood?
Oh, not even 45 minutes.
45? Well,
yeah, it's about 45 minutes. Yeah. Without traffic. Yeah, without traffic.
That's where I was going. Yeah, I went to North Hollywood High. I lived in Studio City, so I'm familiar. I worked out on Sunset Strip back in the mid 80s. So.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Well, Dave, then I'm sorry, with traffic about 4 days.
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, let's shift gears a little bit. And before we do shift the gears, I really do hope that we get to see you do some live shows here. I mean, there's like a festival coming up in Northern California. And that would have been a great place for you guys to play an outdoor festival. I see that you got a couple of new friends in your collection just the other day, some new guitars. Let me ask you, how big is the collection now?
The guitars, you know, the guitars I have or I tend to keep are the ones I really, truly play. Mm-hmm. So right now, you know, not a lot. I probably have 30 guitars. That's cool. You know, but they're all high-end quality guitars, yeah. You know. I've had, you know, the point where you have to store stuff in warehouses and all of that stuff, and it gets ridiculous. Yeah. You know, so now the guitars I have are the ones that I really love and I play. Mm-hmm. So
those two Charvels that you just got the other day, those are brand new. They weren't involved in the album, right?
No, actually they are.
Oh,
they are actually. Yeah, I'm sorry. So there's one that it's weird. I didn't originally want it. It has a blood stain kind of paint job.
Yeah.
Actually, that's an interesting story. A friend of mine, he's the artist relationship guy for Charvel. His name's Mike Tempesta. Really awesome guy. And Mike's a friend. And he's the head of artists for Charvel, Jackson, and Eddie Van Halen's line, which is EVH.
Yeah.
And so he kept calling and saying, dude, you got to come take this guitar. And I'm like, he sent me pictures. And I was like, no. I said, I'm not playing a guitar with the blood splatter. It looks stupid. Like you just drip paint all over, right? So finally one day I go down to the Charvel place where all the artists go, right? And I go in, all right, well, let me see the guitar. So he brings it out. I played it. And as soon as I played it, even without amp, it just sounded and played so well. It was insane. I was like, oh, God. So I plugged it in, and I just started ripping on it without even trying. It's just so easy to play. Mm-hmm. So I ended up falling in love with that guitar, and I ended up using that. The guitar is like on 90% of our entire new record is all of that guitar.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, it's amazing. And then I have the other one. They're all custom built like by Mike Shannon. Mm-hmm. So, but that red blood splatter, what people don't know is that has an interesting story. It was actually hand built by the original guys who made Charvel guitars in the late 70s. And this is really, most people that don't play guitar, they wouldn't have a clue, but kind of like Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, these were the guys in the early, 80s. Not early 80s, I'm sorry, late 70s that actually made those guitars, right? It was Grover Jackson, Mike Shannon, I think Wayne Charvel, a couple other people were involved. So that guitar that I have was actually hand built by all four of those guys. Oh. And it was originally put out for sale at some astronomical price. it was like under $20,000 for that one guitar. Well, it never sold. So it sat in a warehouse for years.
Oh.
And basically, Mike brought it out. It was like, when I played, I was like, oh yeah. And he goes, we'll take it. And so that was it.
Oh, that is so awesome. That
Yeah,
is very
great
cool.
guitar.
No, that's very cool, especially for it to not sell, and they took really good care of it. So that's very cool. What what made you fall in love with it? Was it the thickness of the neck? I mean, what was
Everything. Yeah, I mean, everything. I mean, first for me, always the guitar has to play great, right?
Yeah.
It can sound amazing, but if it's brutal to play, what's the point? So it played really well. It was easy to play. I mean, you could basically do a lot of varied scale sequences, and there's no resistance. You can get the action really low. It has, again, for guitar players, they'd get this. It basically has a 12-inch radius all the way down. So it's consistent. It's not a compound radius like Charbels traditionally are.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So you have consistency on your radius, which is very much like a Gibson radius, to be honest. There's something about the shape of the neck. It's a pretty wide neck, but it also has a really comfortable feel. It's kind of like the typical U-shaped feel or C-shape.
Yes.
And then sonically, the thing it's amazing. It's got really nice top end bite, but it's also very fat sounding.
Cool.
Especially for a guitar that's, it's not the lightest guitar in the world, but it's certainly not a beast as far as heavy.
Yeah.
So but it has a really thick sound, and I think a lot of it has to do with the brass bridge.
Cool. Is that going on tour?
Oh yeah. I mean, I used it actually. So I've had it. Forgive me. I mean, I've had that guitar now for about 2.5 years. Because when we did the tour, when we did whatever, we did Europe, we did Spain, Germany, all those places. That guitar actually we took out, and I used that on the majority of those shows.
That's awesome. Very cool. Speaking of guitars, and a lot of people don't know this. Well, the guitar players that listen to this show, and we have a few axemen that are just shredders, and absolutely, when I told people I had an opportunity to interview you, they were just like stoked. You did a unique cover, and it's really kind of cool. You did a cover of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Now, I got to ask you, why did you pick that song?
So you're going back to 1987.
Yes, I am. Yes,
yeah.
I am.
So in all sincerity, that song has been covered by a lot of people. Richie Blackmore used to kind of do some small, tiny version of it, opening rainbow shows.
Okay.
I think Jeff Beck's done it. It was interesting because when I was a little kid, I used to go to the bars and I'd watch these really amazing players in Connecticut, like Jimmy Bell. And there was a guy named Jay Johnson who had a band called Crier. They were huge. I mean, there was kind of, I used to sneak in at like 14 or 15 in the clubs to watch these guys.
Nice.
And he used to do a version very much like what I did. And I remember loving it. And then he retired or something, never did anything. I was like, oh, that's sad. And I will never forget. We were recording Stand in Line. I was in the studio with Pat Torpy, who unfortunately recently passed away. He was the drummer of Mr. Big. And Pat was on the Stand in Line record. And we needed another song. And Graham Bonnet, I don't know what happened. He was having some, issues, family or alcohol or whatever. He couldn't finish the last song. So we were short, and we, under contract, had to have a 9th song or something like that on the record. And so Pat and I are sitting in the studio. I'm like, my God, what are we going to do? I don't have a clue. So I said, I remember this guy doing this version, and I loved it. And so within 3 hours, we constructed and recorded that song.
Awesome.
And that's literally how it's done. And that, it's like, look, as an adult now, someone that's matured, here I am 30 years later playing guitar. There are things I like about it and other things I go, oh, that's horrible. The fast solos are incredible. I mean, I still am very proud to have done those, and I still do them, shredding, very articulate. Everything's extremely accurate. I mean, it's perfectly played on the shredding stuff. Yeah. The stuff where I wish I would have done it as an adult now is vibrato would have been much cooler, much more mature. Yeah. But that's it. But I will tell you, man, we headlined the biggest show we've ever done. We actually did in South Korea last year. It was actually an area called Busan. And actually my bass player couldn't go, so my buddy Rudy Sarzo played bass with us. He came, learned. Yeah, he spent like a week learning the music, then spent a week rehearsing with us. We headlined. We drew 90,000 people. It was massive. It was insane. And we played Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and it's actually on YouTube. Someone put it up there. So if you do like Impellitteri Busan, and you'll see Somewhere Over the Rainbow somewhere in there, and it's insane. And you listen to that, and we're playing it, looking out in the audience, and there's like all these people crying. It's like an anthem in their world. It's just insane.
That's so cool, man. What a rush to look out at the crowd and see that, and especially people just getting crazy. It is a very cool song. Well, first of all, rockers, you are listening to the Denim and Leather Show with Viking Dave, and we have on the phone with us Chris Impellitteri, of the lead guitarist and founding member of the band Impellitteri. We're talking about the brand new album, The Nature of the Beast, that's going to drop here in the U.S. on October 12th. Chris, you really raised the level of standard in playing. You are, in many aspects, a perfectionist. It comes across very well structured in what you do. In the 80s, how many hours a day did you practice, and how many hours a day do you practice now?
Probably the same. I mean, I know this is going to sound strange. I don't view it as practicing. I mean, I have a guitar with me at all times,
Cool.
right? So whether I'm outside at my pool or I'm basically in the studio or somewhere in the house, there's always a guitar near me, and I just play all the time. You know, for me, it's like a third arm. I just love having it near me. So it's not that I sit there and count, hey, did I spend 8 hours today practicing? But I play every day and a lot. And it's out of love for the instrument, you know. It's like my comfort.
Also helps with muscle memory too. I mean,
big time, absolutely.
Very cool.
I mean, there are times where and I love that you said that, because there are many times where people ask me, how do you play so fast, or how do you do this passage, or whatever like that. And to be honest, I've done it so many times now. There are times it scares me, because I'll be on stage, really, you're playing in front of, whatever, the festivals especially, you're playing in front of 35,000 people, and my mind will wander, you'll be thinking of like, hey man, did I shut the light off in the bedroom last night? And, and you're playing the solo, and your hands are doing everything perfectly right, but your mind is somewhere else, and then you realize, oh my God, this is muscle memory.
That's awesome. Well, I have a fan, a buddy of mine that I've encouraged in his guitar playing. He's a scale nut. He just loves doing that. He loves you. Actually went to a couple of your clinics. In fact, he said it was really funny at one of the clinics. You go and you're like jamming, and then you go, okay, I'm going to do it slow. And it was still fast. And then you just kind of put your hands up, and it was just like the room was just like in awe of you. I thank you so much for all that work that you've done. And my buddy Art he just wanted to say thank you once again for raising the standard of shredding, and he's an absolute shredder. With that said, I want to change gears because we are coming close to the end of your interview, and thanks again. Let's have a little bit of fun. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. What do you prefer, CD, MP3, or vinyl?
CD.
Okay. What was your first album you bought?
Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous.
Wow, nice. Very cool. I still have that in vinyl. Your first concert you went to?
Kiss Destroyer.
Yes. All right. Nice. Okay, the metal gods are looking down at you, and they're saying, Chris, you're amazing. You can pick anybody that you want to jam with. I don't care how many people are in the band, past or present. Who's in your fantasy band?
Okay, easy. Drums, Neil Peart. Bassist, Geezer Butler.
Yeah.
Vocalist, Ronnie James Dio.
Nice.
And keyboardist, John Lord.
Cool. Wow, nice. That's such a... Any other guitar players, or it's just all you?
People ask me, I actually love other guitar players. If I had another guitar player to work with, there's so many amazing guitar players, so that's a really difficult one to pick.
Do me this. I don't mean to interrupt on you. I apologize.
Sure.
Give me your top 5 guitarists, if you can do that, just off the top, because I know a few of them. I just want some of my listeners to
Well, listen, so this is important, because you're going to someone if you're asking me top guys that influenced me or guys that I listen to now, because remember, there's old and new. I can start right off the bat. If you're going to talk about my technique, the biggest influence was actually 3 guys compiled into one, which are John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola, Paco de Lucia, where they had this thing, where they would tour around.
Guitar player, yeah.
That's where you get a lot of my speed, the attack,
yeah.
Right? Early on, you're going to have guys like Tony Iommi, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads. Those are like going to be the foundation forefathers, right?
Yeah.
If you talk about some of the new guys that I love, I mean, look, Jeff Loomis, Gus G, All those guys are fantastic. Guys my own age, right? That'd be your Ingves, your Paul Gilberts, your Vinnie Moores. I could go on and on.
Steve Morris?
I love Steve Morris. Love Steve Morris. He was another guy.
Yeah.
Steve Lukather.
Yeah.
You know, you can sit there and go on and on. I mean, I'm a guy that I don't think there's any guitar player out there that I don't like. I mean, I love them all. John Sykes, another one who's huge influence, and I don't talk about him much.
Yeah.
You know, Gary Moore, huge.
Yeah,
so
Gary, wow.
this list would be a lot more than 5 guys.
No, that's cool. I knew you loved Steve Morris, and I love the Dregs. I dig what he's done with. In fact, earlier this year, it was a dream come true. I got to see the original Dixie Dregs play together, and I was so stoked, man. I was so stoked. That was a dream come true. All right, well, we've come to the end of our interview, and before you go, I want you to pick one song off this brand new album, The Nature of the Beast, and tell us a little bit about it, and when we're done with this interview, we're going to spin it.
Okay, well, I know this is going to sound strange, but it's going to be a cover tune.
Cool.
We basically remade Symptom of the Universe by Black Sabbath. We actually did 2 covers. We did Phantom of the Opera.
Yep.
Both those songs, I really love the direction we took them in. You know, it's kind of like what Van Halen did with a lot of the Kinks music.
Yeah.
I always thought, man, these are so good. Not Phantom. I mean, that's a Broadway song, but the Symptom of the Universe version, Tony can do no wrong with his riffs. I just always loved that song so much. We used to secretly play it at like sound checks before the gigs,
Cool.
Rehearsals. And it was one of those songs where I just want to see where, if we impelliterize a song, where we take this thing. And so once we had the riff, we basically created this foundation over it. And I just love the way we did it as a band. I mean, the drumming's insane. I'm really, really happy with the guitar solos and the way we played it. Bass playing's great. It just, I don't know, there's something about it. Very magical track for us.
Cool. Well, we're going to spin it. I got one more question. I can't help myself. It's just an honor to be able to talk to you and have you on the Denim and Leather Show. What more do you want to finish? What is left in you? What do you want to accomplish before you say, I'm not going to tour anymore or make any albums? What's there for Chris?
Well, I think the reality is it's time to start touring the United States.
Amen.
The same way we do it. So that's not going to be a final. I mean, that's something we want to do for the next 20 years before we end up, becoming. I mean, we're already freaking old. We're already, like, I laugh. I feel like we're like dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. We're corpses, but we get younger each year. So for me, it's really about getting us known as well as we're known in Japan and some places in Europe, in the U.S. That's our next goal.
Cool. I thank you, sir, so much, man. This was an absolute honor. I hope it was a decent interview. In fact, you mentioned Gus G. I'm interviewing Gus G on Friday night. I'm stoked. So I got 2 shredders in 1 week. It's just a great
Yeah. I love Gus, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good, well, you're phenomenal. I mean, the stuff that you do, and thank you very much for all your instrumental stuff. You rock. Chris Impellitteri, it has been an absolute honor, and I wish you the best of luck. I hope one day to be able to shake your hand and get a picture with you and see you live.
Well, Dave, again, thanks for having me, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man. Good luck.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.